American people will not pay for the wall.
But that's exactly what we're doing. President Trump is putting American taxpayers on the hook for building his wall, insisting that he will make Mexico pay us back.
There is no way that Mexico can pay a wall like that.
I'm not going to pay for that wall.
And so Mexico's president bailed out of his meeting with President Trump. We'll show you where we go from here. And remember when Trump claimed the election was rigged?
It's a rigged election, believe me.
We'll take a closer look at Trump's claim that millions of people voted illegally and show how Trump once said illegal voters could have voted for him.
Maybe I shouldn't be saying it. I may be hurting myself, you're right.
This is Money, Power, and Politics. Okay, and so tonight we now know that President Trump wants to tax imports from Mexico to pay for the wall. He has also said this would take complex negotiations, which may be tough when they won't even talk. Trump tweeted, if Mexico is unwilling to pay for the badly needed wall, then it would be better to cancel the upcoming meeting. Then hours later, Mexico's president said on Thursday that he informed the White House he will not attend a planned meeting next week with Mr. Trump. Then Trump said it was a mutual decision.
The president of Mexico and myself have agreed to cancel our planned meeting scheduled for next week. Unless Mexico is going to treat the United States fairly, with respect, such a meeting would be fruitless, and I want to go a different route.
And now we know which route that is. He floated again a 20% tax on all imports from Mexico. His press secretary Sean Spicer said that could raise billions of dollars that would also require changing NAFTA, though, which could at the very least take some time. Republican leaders have also considered cutting off aid to Mexico as a way of making that country pay for the wall. In the meantime, Republicans are planning to charge U.S. taxpayers.
If there are any other barriers in the way, we will deal with those barriers. But a lot of those barriers we think can be done by executive order.
House Speaker Paul Ryan said Republicans could spend 12 to 15 billion tax dollars on the wall, and they hope to pass it this year.
Catch illegal immigrants trying to break the law here. We don't know why they're coming. And then we release them. That stops under President Trump.
Now, in the second half of our show, we're going to focus on Trump's plan to crack down on illegal immigration that goes beyond the wall project and what this means for both sides of the debate. But first, we want to key into Trump's claim of mass voter fraud. Because leaders in both parties don't buy it, fact checkers have repeatedly debunked it. Last night, we showed you how we found here in Tampa Bay a small number of cases of voter fraud in Central Florida, the state as well, but not at the scale that Trump says that he believes it's occurring. And that's where he's picking a fight here that takes him off message from his other priorities. And some of his own words on this could come back to haunt him. And it's something that the Washington Post picked up on when they took a look back at some of his speeches.
Folks, it's a rigged system, and it's a rigged election, believe me.
President Trump told his supporters the election is rigged before he won. And now that he's president, he continues to insist that millions of people voted illegally, particularly by voting more than once, just as he insisted on the trail.
Isn't it amazing the way they say there's no voter fraud?
Watch Trump say the election may be rigged because illegal voters may in fact be casting their votes for him.
Maybe they'll vote for Trump. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be saying this. I may be hurting myself. You're right. You're right. Maybe they're going to vote for Trump.
And as he fires up his supporters on the premise the election is rigged, watch him say something that may encourage his supporters to commit voter fraud on his behalf.
Let's forget that. It's okay for them to do it.
Now here's a tweet from a journalist showing Trump supporter Terry Rhodes stumping for Trump in the swing state of Iowa.
Isn't it amazing the way they say there's no voter fraud?
Now here's her mugshot after she was arrested on suspicion of voting twice. The Des Moines Register reported she's a Republican who cast 2 ballots in the same election. And an Iowa radio station said she told them she did it because she thought the polls are rigged, just as Trump said.
Let's forget that. It's okay for them to do it.
The Register also reported that Roth's attorney says she has significant mental deficits and may not be competent to stand trial. So while Trump claims millions of people voted illegally against him, he did previously suggest illegal votes could have gone for him.
You're right. Maybe they're going to vote for Trump. Let's forget that. It's okay for them to do it.
As for Trump's evidence of mass voter fraud, he cites a Pew study from years ago.
According to the highly respected Pew, there are 24 million voter registrations in the United States that are either invalid or significantly inaccurate.
Sean Spicer also cited that Pew study as evidence of mass voter fraud in 2016.
There was one that came out of Pew in 2008 that showed 14% of people who have voted were non-citizens.
But that Pew study, which actually came out in 2012, does not draw that conclusion. The former director of Pew's Election Center tweeted, "We found millions of out-of-date registration records due to people moving or dying, but found no evidence that voter fraud resulted." But Trump equates outdated voter rolls to fraud. Again, he tweeted, "I will be asking for a major investigation into voter fraud, including those registered to vote in 2 states."
There are 2.8 million people that are registered in more than one state.
And as it turns out, his own top advisor, Steve Bannon, was registered in 2 states. And same goes for his pick to run the Treasury Department and his own daughter. Does not mean they committed fraud.
There are nonpartisan commissions in almost every state that oversee allegations of voter fraud, and there simply hasn't been massive or even much individual in-person voter fraud in this country. It's sort of a myth.
Even President Trump's own lawyers said the 2016 election was free of voter fraud. Specifically, in opposing recounts, Trump's attorneys concluded all available evidence suggests the 2016 general election was not tainted by fraud or mistake.
The president's attorney did say that there was no fraud in arguing against the Jill Stein recount effort in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. I think that's one of the things that raises questions about whether this is designed for partisan gain or it really is about the integrity of the elections.
But again, the president's spokesman, Sean Spicer, said their lawyers meant the election was not tainted by states in the Midwest that Trump won, and not necessarily big states like California and New York that Hillary Clinton won.
You look at California and New York, I'm not sure that those statements we didn't look at those 2 states in particular. A lot of these issues could have occurred in bigger states. That's where I think we're going to look.
And so to recap, the report that Trump cites as proof of mass voter fraud does not itself cite mass voter fraud. And on the campaign trail, Trump did say that illegal voters could have voted for him. Here now is how Trump responded to that on ABC News.
What you have presented so far has been debunked. It's been called false.
Take a look at the Pew reports.
I called the author of the Pew report last night, and he told me that they found no evidence of voter fraud.
Then why did he write the report?
He said no evidence of voter fraud.
Then why did he write the report?
So
according to Pew report, then he's groveling again. You know, I always talk about the reporters that grovel when they want to write something that you want to hear, but not necessarily millions of people want to hear or have to hear.
So you've launched an investigation.
We're going to launch an investigation to find out, and then the next time, and I will say this, of those votes cast, none of them come to me. None of them come to me.
Coming up, we're going to go beyond the wall now and walk you through Trump's plan to deport illegal immigrants, how that would work, the next steps, and the costs. Okay, last night we took an in-depth look at Trump's plan to wall off our southern border. Tonight we're going to key into other parts of his plan to crack down on illegal immigration, starting with his orders to ramp up deportations.
His priority with respect to immigration is first and foremost making sure that people who are in this country that are seeking to do us harm or have committed a crime are at the forefront of that.
And to that end, Trump ordered 10,000 more immigration officers. That is if they can find the money for it, and an expansion of detention centers. The president wants to prioritize deporting illegal immigrants who are convicted or charged with some sort of criminal offense. Of course, others living here illegally by definition have committed a crime itself by living here illegally. And so, of course, millions, an estimated 11, 12 million of undocumented immigrants are worried, including those who were brought here illegally as young children. Now, to explain their perspective on this, here's a family we met in the Tampa Bay area a couple of years ago.
Yo no puedo salir de la casa.
Socorro Maldonado just said she can't leave the house. She's been hiding here in Tampa for the past 14 years, and her daughter Leslie grew up not knowing why.
I would always ask my mom, what's a Social Security? They're like, oh, something you don't have.
They came from Mexico when Leslie was 4 years old to escape the gangs known for killing civilians and snatching kids.
Tenía mucho miedo de que me quitaran un hijo. No sé.
Socorro feared they would take her children, so she took them across the border illegally and raised them in Florida. Leslie's father works in the shadows doing construction, and her mom and aunt have been disconnected by language and fear.
They're too scared to get a job.
Leslie always assumed she was American and that her parents were safe.
Like, wait, so my parents can be taken away from me at any point. I could be taken away.
She discovered the secret around 5 years ago when she told her parents she wanted to go to college.
I cried. I broke down. It broke me in all kinds of ways.
Please check out our YouTube channel for a closer look at what Trump's actions will change and how it could affect people on both sides of the debate. Search for Craig Patrick's Money, Power, and Politics and click subscribe at the top of the page. You'll also find perspective like this take from Charlie LaDuff, who proposed some ideas that the president is now pursuing.
More than 1 million illegal immigrants live in Los Angeles County alone. Many have children, and most have been here for more than a decade. Rounding them up will probably cause a whole bunch of unforeseen problems, the police and the old 60s radicals tell me.
Trump and all those cats, man, they're fearful. Because you know what? We don't die, we multiply.
Oh, it created definitely an uprising. You know, if you take a look.
Really? Wait, that's a big thing.
Communities, well, not in a violent uprising, I'm sure, but people would be taken to the streets. You know, this is America. People have, you know, we have this thing called the Constitution.
These gangsters, these what you call thugs, you know, these individuals, they're young men with broken hearts that are tired. And they don't give a
Besides, where would we hold 11 million people? Remember, we couldn't find enough beds for those kids coming over the border last summer?
But just from a pure, practical standpoint, not going to happen. Can't be done.
Why not begin by focusing on the 700,000 illegal immigrants who are convicted felons, gangbangers, or repeat border jumpers? Unwanted and uninvited creeps who have served time only to be released into the streets by local American authorities. Turns out, 2/3 of local jurisdictions, so-called sanctuary cities, ignore federal immigration requests to notify them when an illegal felon is going to be released. Why not pass a federal law requiring them to report? Almost everyone we talk to seems to agree with that.
No liking criminals in the United States, no good.
We want those people off the streets.
You want them out?
Yeah.
You got to deal with them every day.
Right.
So that would be a place to start?
That would be a place to start.
And why not pass a federal law requiring mandatory prison time for illegal felons who re-enter the United States after they've been deported? It might cost money, but it's a lot cheaper than building a 2,000-mile wall, and it would have saved the life of the woman in San Francisco. The feds promised the same thing to this man 7 years ago after an illegal alien gangbanger was released from the LA County jail only to murder his teenage son.
Should have been gone. He shouldn't even been here. He
And
should
the
never
feds
got
had his
here.
fingerprints.
They had his fingerprints. Matter of fact, the DA said that he was known for maybe 3 more murders they couldn't prove. He was involved in 3 more murders, plus my son. The Republicans sold me out. Democrats sold me out. Black politicians sold me out. I'm just a pissed off dad.
And so, coming up, we'll show you how the president made his case and connected with the families of victims killed by illegal immigrants. And we'll show you how his plans may play out. Well, of course, the president rolled out a series of orders to go after illegal immigrants, but he still has to find the money to make some of those orders kick in and work. So Mike Flannery shows us how the president is making his case.
So badly needed. You folks know how badly needed it is.
Among folks the president pointed to were relatives of victims killed by immigrants in the U.S. illegally. Trump hopes sympathy for them will counter heartbreaking stories of families torn apart by deportation. And he had a message for federal agents who will do the deporting.
You guys are about to be very, very busy doing your job the way you want to do them.
Trump plans to hire 5,000 additional Border Patrol agents and 10,000 more immigration officers. Even that expanded force, though, would need a lot of help to round up and expel an estimated 11 million immigrants or more who are here in violation of U.S. law. So Trump's orders target self-described sanctuary cities and counties, including Chicago, suburban Evanston, and Cook County. They stand to lose desperately needed federal funds unless they cooperate with immigration enforcement.
We are going to get the bad ones out, the criminals and the drug deals and gangs and gang members and cartel leaders. The day is over when they can stay in our country and wreak havoc.
These policies don't work. They don't make us safer. They do the opposite.
Trump's advisors said in the next few days he would suspend issuing visas to visitors from as many as 7 predominantly Muslim countries: Iran, Iraq, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen.
And we just don't yet know how or when the Trump administration will cut funding for sanctuary cities, as Trump plans to do and is ordered to do. Bet, though, that the feds are going to face some lawsuits over this from activists who will claim that the federal government cannot do that. Much more to come. Coming up, Sean Spicer, well, he's giving his boss, our president, a run for his money on Twitter with some very striking and unusual and maybe unintentional tweets. And it kicked off some very interesting and funny theories about what's happening behind the scenes. Okay, time now for something different. Check out these tweets from White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer. Does not like Dippin' Dots. That much we know. He's been at feud by way of Twitter with Dippin' Dots ice cream, the frozen nitrogen little beads of ice cream, for some sort of time. Does not think that they're the ice cream of the future. We know this. We showed you this last night. Had a run-in because they ran out of vanilla at the Nationals. But I want to show you some new tweets that just don't make as much sense as that. What is he trying to say here? Take a look at this tweet. We don't know what this means. It came from this morning, just before 9 a.m. in 9. It just doesn't add up. Okay, maybe it's a butt tweet of some time. He had his phone in his pocket, and but it happened again. Look at this, right before 10 a.m. What is he trying to say here? You have a lot of tech experts suggesting that maybe he's accidentally putting his password in and tweeting it for the whole world to see, if not a butt tweet. At the very least, this has kicked off a new meme, and a lot of people wondering if it's not some kind of coded cry for help. Comedians, at least. Is he accidentally releasing nuclear codes? It gives us one more thing to talk about and more drama in the White House. Folks, that's our show. We'll see you again tomorrow night. Take care.